On June 22nd, a giant electromagnet known as the Muon G-2 left Brookhaven National Laboratory in Long Island and began a 35-day journey to Fermilab in nearby Batavia, garnering thousands of fans and onlookers along the way. So what are scientists hoping to accomplish with this giant device, and why did it gain so much attention? I caught up with the 50-foot wide electromagnet when it finally reached Illinois and followed along on the remaining 3 days of the journey. More than 3,000 people watched and cheered as the Muon G-2 traveled through the campus of Fermilab, stopping just a few feet away from its final resting place.
This is exciting. I just love the fact that Fermi's getting some new things to be able to work on. The science behind it's fascinating.
My father worked at Fermilab for 42 years, so he retired in 2010, so we brought him up today just for the heck of it.
At home, I was thrilled that we were going to see a giant magnet, although I didn't even know what Fermilab was and what an electromagnet was. But then my brother explained it to me.
I hope that this encourages other kids to really look towards space and other areas of interest, because we need our scientists and our technology people to drive the future.
The electromagnet will be used to study muons, subatomic particles with a lifetime of only 2.2 millionths of a second, in hopes of discovering subatomic particles hidden in the vacuum. The muon spins like a top inside the magnet. Scientists then study that wobble to see if they get the same results as Brookhaven did before they shut down the device, or if they can find a new discovery.
Muons are interesting particles. They're like electrons that are in atoms, but they're heavier. So we don't see them much in nature, but we can make them at Fermilab and shoot them into this big ring behind me. So the idea is to see if there's any new physics out there that we don't know. We're experimentalists, so the theorists tell us, well, this is the way nature should be, and we check it.
To rebuild the device would have cost about $30 million, but to move it only cost about $3 million. So it traveled 3,200 miles by barge down the Atlantic coast, through the Gulf of Mexico, up the Mississippi and Illinois rivers, landing in Lamont.
This was really sort of the heart and soul of the experiment, and so getting it from Brookhaven to here, from New York to here, was probably the biggest challenge we faced.
But the trip wasn't over. Once in Lamont, the Muon G-2 took 3 nights to finally stop in Batavia. Why did the trip take so long? Why not go faster? Why not fly it from one place to the other? These are all questions onlookers had when they found out about the big move. A simple answer:
we needed to have them remain very flat, and that meant from a diameter of 50 feet, not deflecting more than about 3 or 4 millimeters from one side to the other.
It's made out of metals, and aluminum mainly, copper, but there's a special metal that it uses called niobium titanium. It's like as fine as human hair. If the magnet twists, then we have the possibility of breaking these very delicate strands.
To prevent this from happening, Fermilab contracted Emmer International. The Oregon-based company specializes in heavy haul transportation. A few notable jobs: Howard Hughes' Spruce Goose airplane, the 3.2 million pound Fairmont Hotel in San Antonio, Texas, and the levitated Mass, a 340-ton rock in Los Angeles.
It'll rate right up to the top of a very unique move, and just another piece of history, and looking for the missing matter.
Crews used a large crane to move the Muon G-2 from the barge to a specially made truck with a red steel apparatus that would keep it as flat as possible, and 16 independently controlled axles and hydraulics to shift if needed. From there, they spent the next 2 days inspecting it and making sure it was ready for what some considered the riskiest part of the trip: Chicagoland traffic. This was one of the widest loads ever to be transported across Illinois roads, taking up 5 lanes of traffic. Since the device couldn't move, the truck could only drive about 10 miles an hour, which would back up traffic for miles. Those factors meant only one thing: all travel had to be done at night.
It's going to be an exciting final leg. We sort of had a practice run for this out on New York, where we had to transport through about 6 miles of fairly easy road. It's fairly different than traveling through 30 miles of Chicago suburbs, closing down 2 interstates in the process.
To pull this off required a lot of planning and teamwork. Police were needed to block traffic and escort the device, and a number of crews were needed to conduct a rolling roadblock, removing signs and streetlights that were in the way and replacing them after it passed.
All the personnel, the crews did a fantastic job, and it's all teamwork. and everybody knows their job and everybody did their job perfect. And we have a lot of redundancy of safety features so that everything goes safe for personnel and our load.
The first night consisted of back roads from Lamont to Bolingbrook. But the next two, the slow-moving object drove down two of the biggest highways in the Chicago area, I-88 and 355, which you can imagine drew a big crowd.
My daughter was coming down the street and she saw this big object and she stopped somebody and says, it's a big giant magnet coming through, once in a lifetime thing. So we got in my car and we came down here to see it.
I want to be a scientist and make experiments, like build one of these days.
The highways had a few challenges, like the I-Pass lane, where there are only 6 inches of clearance on each side of the open toll lanes. They also had to back up on and off ramps a few times to make sure they were facing the right direction. Once it got off I-88, it traveled up Route 59 to Naperville, down Ferry Road, and up Eola, where the truck had to go over a few curbs, so they had to put ramps under each of the tires.
We're just so fortunate. We have great guys that have great depth perception. And remember, they have the guys on the ground. When they get into tight spots, there's a man on each side watching to make sure we have the clearance, all radio communication, and we just take it slow and easy to make sure the load drives perfectly safe.
The Muon G-2 finally pulled into Fermilab about 4:07 a.m. on July 26th.
The biggest risk to the project is now retired. We're sitting here with this device. We just get to put it back together now. The fun part starts.
For the past few weeks, it has remained untouched, only visually inspected. They won't know if the transport was 100% successful until they put it in its new home, a building that won't be finished until January. The arrival of the Muon G-2 is huge for Fermilab, who had to shut down their particle accelerator, the Tevatron, in 2011 due to the success of the Large Hadron Collider at CERN in Switzerland. They will be using parts of the accelerator complex for the Muon experiments.
I think it's a good thing for the laboratory. I like all the PR it's brought to the laboratory, and it goes to show that science is still going on at Fermilab. It's not dying.
This is the culmination of really a year of work to bring this state-of-the-art piece of equipment here to Fermilab, here to Illinois, here to the Fox Valley, where it is going to be put to use, really pushing the boundaries of science. There really is still a next generation of science that's going to be happening here at Fermilab.
Scientists at Fermilab hope to be collecting data by 2016. I'm Jen Hannon for Naperville News Extra.